Hey, what's up? It's me, Awesome Ali.
And I'm Raisa, and welcome to the beginning episode of our Be in the Conversation series.
Woo!
Woohoo! Where we interview our upcoming authors of the book Be in the Conversation.
Yes.
Today we are going to be welcoming Joush Robinson. He also owns his nonprofit organization Guy Talk. So today we're going to be talking about that and his chapter, The Seduction of Ego for the Better. Please welcome Joush Robinson.
Woo!
Hi.
Hey guys, how are you?
We're good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for asking.
No problem. Well, thank you for being here. So, Joush, on any episode, even our new series, Be in the Conversation, we always start off with one question, and that is, who are you and what do you do?
I'm a human being. Let's start off with that. Well, as everyone knows, my name is Joush Robinson. I am an engineering student at Ryerson University. I'm also the upcoming author for the book Be in the Conversation. I also run a initiative called Guy Talk, which focuses on toxic masculinity, brotherhood, and motivation for young men.
Wow,
So today
amazing.
we're gonna talk about a little bit more about Guide Talk and also a little bit about your chapter. So can you tell us a little bit what is Guide Talk and why did you start it?
Yeah, so Guy Talk was an initiative that started off with me and my friends. Guy Talk focuses on three main pillars, which is toxic masculinity, stuff like men don't cry or men play sports, those are some of the stereotypes we hear, right? So that comes under the toxic masculinity pillar. Next one is brotherhood, being accountable for each other, encouraging each other, being responsible for each other, supporting each other. That all comes within brotherhood, right? The third one is motivation, just motivating these young men to go after their dreams, go after their passions, working hard towards their goal. And the whole organization is revolving around these three pillars. This started, I believe, right before second semester of grade 12. Just me and my friends, we were just sitting down and talking. I think Raisa, the group.
Yes.
We all were just sitting down and talking, and we're like, hey, you know what? I've never seen this safe space or the support group for men. And so like, okay, why don't we start one? And that's where the ball started rolling from.
So just, chilling, talking with the boys, and then it's like, yo, where is this thing for us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to even provide some context, Josh, Ali, and I, we actually, Josh and I graduated, but we all go to the same high school. So we graduated from there. So yes, I do know the group, and I do remember when you did start it, and then there was an event, and I would see Josh running down the halls and like really campaigning for Guy Talk. It was very different, and it was nice to see that a lot of the young men in our school community were actually interested, and I think that opens up more of a broader conversation. So I guess that leads into my next question. Could you please explain like what toxic masculinity is, and what are some real life examples that are happening in our day-to-day lives?
Well, toxic masculinity is pretty much the toxic stereotypes we hear in society, right? Especially when it comes to masculinity, people think that you got to have this macho look, or you got to be all tough and rigid. You got to play football, always hang out with the boys, all that stuff. And I'm here saying it's totally different. Masculinity is not about being macho. It's about being true to yourself, right? So if I like cooking, you best believe I'm going to go make a dish right now, right? It's just being true with yourself. Being able to express yourself is an art, right? Being true to yourself is something that'll take you far in life. At least that's something I believe and I work with. So that's what you see, like, especially, I guess you could see it in like the older media content. You see that, men don't cry, or all the men are just playing sports. Nowadays, you see the difference. And that's a great difference, especially. But it's still there. It's still, especially like if you look at some of the older cultures, or like it's kind of there in the heritage, right? I'm coming from an Indian background. And personally, back in the day, it was, the woman stay at home and clean. while the men are kind of categorized as the breadwinners.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we're seeing things change, and we're pushing for that change too, right? So
Mhm.
that's kind of where that toxic masculinity thing came from.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And I'm just really curious. When you're talking about toxic masculinity, one of the things that you mentioned was that, it's about staying true to yourself, right? Or like that men don't cry. But do you think that some of these like stereotypes are more of like, how a girl would perceive that guy, right? Like, let's say if you saw a guy crying, would you go for that, right? It's Would you say it's more about like standing up and looking more macho and being a guy for like other people, or more of like a personal thing?
We all have this, I guess, this fake image that we portray to the world. Um, and that's just the realistic truth. If I'm sitting here, I don't look like this all the time. My hair is a mess 24/7. I'm not wearing a shirt half the time. I'm wearing like some type of random t-shirt. It's totally different. This false image, right? And that's nothing wrong, being able to, look different for people. That's okay. That's totally fine. Expressing yourself is an art form, as I said. But I feel like on a mental health aspect, being true to yourself, that's what's going to take you better in the longer run, right?
Mhm.
So again, if I'm saying like that was a great point you pulled out, Ali. It's like what if a guy's crying and a woman sees that, right? Well, if he bottles up that emotions in the longer run, that's going to hurt him rather than him getting it out now and people caring for him, right? There are going to be people who are like, oh my god, he's crying, what the hell? They're just going to walk away. But there's going to be true people who come up and say, hey, are you okay? Would you like some help? Right? You'll be surprised how many conversations start from there, how many support groups you make. That's a networking too, right? I'm not going to recommend crying on the streets just to network, but be in touch with your emotions. There's nothing wrong with that. At least that's the way I approach it from.
No, I
No,
think
thank you.
yeah, Ali and I said the same thing. No, thank you for that, and I think you mentioned a really great thing, and that also brings us into our next question in terms of having that support system. So maybe it's not for the man to cry in front of the woman, but for the man to cry in front of the man. And I think even now, what I'm realizing is that men need other men, because as much as women want to help, and I see it like we're seeing all these coaches and it's very, very good. At the end of the day, it is so important to have some kind of male figure
Mm-hmm.
either influencing you in a good way or even supporting you from behind, because that's that's what's needed. And I think as women are kind of stepping up into like new roles in society, we still have to take care of our men, but it doesn't necessarily have to be us but other men to do that. And that's what you also explained for guy talk, is that one of the pillars is brotherhood. So
Brotherhood. Yep.
yeah, so what does brotherhood mean to you?
Well, brotherhood, again, you kind of summed it up very well. It's, as much as we connect with others, there's this type of special connection when, like what Ali said, when you're with the boys, right? Again, this guy talk idea started off when I was with my boys, when I was with my crew. We all were just sitting down and we're like, hey, where's a support group for us? If we want to be open to talking about our feelings, where do we do that? Right? Where is that safe space? And I feel like different people have different role models. For me, it's my dad. As a male figure, my dad. My mom's more of a she's a female figure, but my dad, my brother, my cousins, my uncles, my boys, my friends are some of the greatest people I know. Right. Besides that, people in our community. Somebody could be a police officer, firefighters, um, a politician. There's different examples we see. When it comes to brotherhood, you see that being able to connect with a person like that, you kind of form this trust. You put your guard down, right? And by breaking your guard down, you're able to expand your feelings. You feel more free, you feel more light, right?
Hmm.
You're able to move around. That flexibility is really important. in my, at least for me, I find it really important. That's how I could like think straight, or
Mm.
like, do something in life. That's how I could like move on, right? So we see different examples of that
Yeah.
in society.
One thing I want to mention is that like one thing that you really brought up that I really like is but both of you brought up was having that male figure, right? From growing up from a young age, most men, most boys, most children, in right, there's higher divorce rates, meaning single moms most of the time, right? So they have that female figure. Then they go to school. Most of the teachers in school are female, right? So they're being surrounded around that again, and then I feel like in now today's society, men are kind of lost, right? Because they don't have that male presence that's needed to develop
Mm,
and build that, good character, good virtues into, how to actually live a better life. And one thing that you brought up is having your dad, or even your friends, politician, people you look up to, is really important, especially for a guy, because it gives them that, even though one thing that I would personally think is that like being a guy, you should be able to, have that mental toughness over, like let's say a woman, right? That gives you, you're supposed to be mentally a little bit stronger, right? So you can take care of yourself, hold yourself a little bit higher. That's my opinion. So I'm curious, what do you think about that?
I see where you're coming from. Um, you know, Again, like what you said, our school system. If you look at our teachers, it's more female teachers rather than men or any other genders. And again, when it came to the divorce rates, a lot of single moms, this male figure usually comes from media or like society's opinion, right? And that's when it comes down to that toxic masculine, that stereotype. You know, if if you don't have a male figure in your life who you look up to, you look at media and you see a guy who only plays football or who acts tough to kind of create this false image, and that's what you adapt, right?
Mm,
Again, you're a product of your environment. That's why not only Guy Talk, but I've seen a lot of organizations, initiatives, they're trying to change that. They're trying to provide events, Instagram lives, different opportunities for people to say, you know what, there's a difference. It's okay to cry. During Guy Talk's first event, we had Officer Swift from the DRPS, the Durham Regional Police Service, and he was talking to us, and he was like, "Listen, I'm with my child, and if we're watching a Disney movie, I don't hold back my tears. I cry. My child feels okay to cry too now because he knows that his dad is crying, but they're still in a safe space, right? That type of connection, that type of bonding, that gives you a freedom in a way. You know what I mean?
mm.
And when you're having like less thoughts in your mind, you could think of different things. You could move on with your life. You could do different new things, better things. Again, your mental health is a huge thing in life.
Wow,
Yeah.
thank you, Josh. Thank you brought
So
a lot of light to that question.
exactly, yeah. And you know what? I think it's so great because I'd also like to add that it's not just for young boys as well. It's for like middle-aged men who are now kind of going through this and being and realizing that, they need support for their mental health. And it's about kind of healing that through because there's, it's just this big cycle of what you see on the media comes back, you bring it home, or you have stress from work, bring it home,
Yeah.
and then over and over again. But you know what? That what you're doing is absolutely amazing. And now you are an author, but you're talking about something completely different from Guy Talk. So we want to jump into that. What is your chapter called? And why did you write it? Like just give us a little bit of insight into that.
Sure. So, a guy who runs an initiative talking about toxic masculinity, brotherhood, you would assume that my chapter, again, is about some type of topic in that area. My topic is called the seduction of ego. That's what my chapter is called. Um, I took the point ego. It's because I was thinking about talking about, okay, let's talk about toxic masculinity or brotherhood and motivation. And then I took a step back and I was kind of trying to find out, okay, what connects all these three pillars, right? And one of the many things that I came across was ego. And I found that ego is not really spoken about that often. We all know what ego is. or at least we have an idea of what ego is. But I've never came across, a book just for that or a movie just because of that. There are um, a lot of books and movies and media about it. I just haven't came across it.
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, what is ego? I started doing some research and I found that, there's different ways of defining ego. Psychologically, uh, philosophically, our general perspective on ego, there's different definitions and different ways we see it. And in a way, the true definition of ego was kind of like this middle ground. It's not really this bad thing that makes you selfish or makes you greedy. It's technically like a decision maker. You have two choices, a bad or good, or, a better, less better option. And it kind of chooses, okay, which one do you want to go with, which is the more logical or the better solution, right? So
Hmm.
that's my thing. My thing is, okay, if we take this ego, okay, and the term seduce is, kind of like bring it in. If we
Mm-hmm.
bring it in and guide it in a different pathway, instead of taking this greed for money or for, just getting all the good materialistic stuff, and I put it towards helping others or standing up for, Black Lives Matters or Asian hate or for something more useful, something towards my community, I could accomplish more, right?
Hmm.
So that's the chapter. That's the way I kind of went about it.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. So you're really trying to use the ego's desire and drive for something better, like something useful. So instead of it like coming into like your guilty desires or whatever you have, it's
Hmm.
more it's like switched. So it's kind of like a reprogramming of your entire brain circuit. I like that. So
Yeah.
what are some of your thoughts on the mainstream media now manipulating our ego?
We see this everywhere. Um, and I don't really think we could blame it because from a business point of view, temptation is a huge thing, right?
Mm.
Um, Saying that, oh, if you have this car, you have this image, or if you buy this food, you're living a very healthy lifestyle or a fashionable lifestyle. If you buy, the latest designer brand, you have this image. My thing was, let's just step aside from it. Let's let's kind of, again, like what you said, rewire this whole situation, right? So we see ego in like ads and stuff, and I'm like, okay, just forget about all that, and let's see the other side of social media. Social media both, kind of advertises all this fake lifestyle, but it also advertises the social issues that are going on in the world, right?
Hmm.
So take that ego perspective from here and just put it on the other side and go with that drive and see where that takes you.
Hmm.
I'll give you a personal example.
Yeah.
Guy talk. If I was egoistic in guy talk, it was like, you know what? I want to make this initiative big. I want to run it. I want to have the show. It could go on and on and on. My perspective was, okay, even if it's small, I want to help more people. I want to spread the word out, right? So what can guy talk do? That's why I kind of stayed away from like, merchandise and all that stuff. Because I heard a few of my friends were like, okay, why don't you run a merchandise and stuff? I didn't want to really market Guy Talk as a business. It's a nonprofit. It's an initiative. Its whole thing is to help people like me, help people like my friends, help people in the community, right? So that's like there's so many examples we could take. I know you too. You could say like, I've seen ego in this way, I've seen ego in that way, right? It's just so many different situations.
One thing I'm curious about what you just said is that you're staying true to what Guy Talk is, right? Keeping it a non-profit organization, a non-profit initiative, as you said, right? And that's the whole point. So you're focusing on what it is right now. But do you think that by having a bigger dream, is that ego? Do you think? Because just from your example, that's kind of what I got.
Yeah. So again, motivation, being motivated in life is what's going to keep you pushing forward, right? Again, this is where ego comes into play. Being able to take Guy Talk to the next level and reach a wider audience is totally fine, right? My core dreams, my core goal is still the same, to help people and to not make a business out of that, right? But same thing when I look at my personal brand. My personal brand is, again, being a part of being the conversation, that book,
Mhm.
or being the student at Ryerson University, going after a degree, whatever. That's a completely different brand. And you could see how, when I'm coming to this brand, I kind of look at it differently. I'm like, okay, I got to market it like this. I got to put posts out. I got to spread the word. Same thing with Guy Talk. You're not going to see this kind of this selfish desire, right? If I'm spending any money or like getting any money, I make sure it's either to run that event, the cost of running that event, or I make sure that goes straight to a charity,
Mm.
right? Guy Talk's first event was a virtual event. We did not charge a single penny. Our guest speakers, they did it for free too, because they just supported that initiative, right? Um, Same thing if you're looking at my personal brand. If I'm launching a book or something,
Yeah.
we have to charge for the book because there is production cost, and that's just the realistic truth. But that money's not coming towards us again, right? The first book, we're giving it to charity, and there's different aspects of it. Here's the thing: it's never black or white; it's always gray,
Mm.
right? If I like coffee and you like tea, we still want caffeine. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a hard topic to really like categorize, but you kind of here and there you see yourself kind of going off the bar, and that's when you got to pull yourself down and be humble. That's the way I see it, at least.
No, that's awesome. As Latifa says, so what I kind of got from what you said there is, okay, it's you have if you're doing initiative, you're running a business, stick to the core thing, the core belief, why you actually started. It's good to grow. It's your ego or your motivation, your desires to grow is great. It's fine as long as you're doing it for the core purpose, not for the desire of buying this stuff. And I would say it's okay to desire, the big mansions, the big jets,
We're
the
humans. We're
whatever.
humans.
Exactly, it's good to desire and lust for those things as long
That's
as
totally
it
fine.
is not poisoning you or not making you go crazy or not making you
Exactly.
like trample other people in that initiative to trying to get to that. So, Josh, thank you so much for that.
You got
And
to treat yourself, right? Like as you said, before I cut you off,
no, no, you're
as you
good.
said, if I see a bigger house, if I see a car I like, it's totally fine working towards it, getting that. Because at the end of the day, you want to live your life. You want to live a happy life. I'm not saying that you get happiness from this objects, but it's something you like, it's totally fine having something you like. Now, if your whole world is after, materialistic things, then maybe you got a problem. Maybe you got to change it up a bit. Um, but that's the thing, right? It's again like your point was a really good point. Does that mean I cannot wish to go up the ladder or get more stuff? No, you can. Just make sure you don't lose your way in that process.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you
I
so
love
much.
it. And there is so even before we move past your chapter, what are some things our readers can look out for? So you have the seduction of the ego for the better. Can you give us a little hint, a little drops there, here and there, of
Yes.
what they could look forward to?
Do some sprinklings of magic dust.
The little magic dust, eh? I'll say this. This book is more than just a chapter about ego. There is so much in this book that once you read the first time, you're going to miss out because there's just so much information packed in that you keep reading and you're like, oh my God, I missed this point. Oh my God, that's a good point. Oh, I could use this in my own life, right? Um, I don't want to get into particulars about my book because I felt like, I kind of gave that hint already what my book
Mhm.
consists of. Um, but everything from mental health to other social issues, this book does a great job in covering it. Again, it's a small book, so we didn't get, as deep as we could, but we made sure we scratch the surface, right?
Mhm.
And again, as a reader, if you read one chapter and you're like, oh, I really like this topic, the internet's amazing. You search it up, you could find tons of things on it, right? Who knows? There might be a Be in the Conversation part two.
Yes,
Mhm.
sir. Thank you for
So,
that, Josh. Yeah,
no
Rachel.
problem.
So I guess one of our last questions as we're kind of wrapping up here is if you could have one guest speaker at one of the Guy Talk events, who would it be and why?
One guest speaker. That's a tough question. There are so many people in the world who I look up to. Different people accomplish different things that motivate me. I guess I got to take someone from my personal life, from my personal experience, because that's all I could talk about for sure, right? It's got to be my dad. Um, Again, since day one till now, he's one of my greatest supporters. Always pushing me, he's always been true to himself and true to me. And that's why I feel like, again, this whole guy talk thing was, I've never felt, I would have felt lost, but I've never like completely lost my way. And my dad was a huge factor to that. He was never really that, old school, I guess, saying that, oh, you got to play sport or you got to do this or you got to do that. He was like, explore everything, see what you like and go from there. So I think it would be my dad. And I feel like one day for sure, he's going to be up on that stage giving a speech.
That's
Can't wait to see
amazing.
it.
Yes, I love what
Yeah.
you said there about your dad and how he's kind of open. That just shows the new generation, the new wave of type of parenting that's coming in, of the
Yeah.
realization that it's okay. Explore what it is. It is what it is. Figure out what works for you, and we'll work on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So, Josh, thank you so much. And the
Thank
last,
you for having me.
yes, no, you're all good. And where can people learn more about Guy Talk? How can they get involved? So, here's your
And where
chance.
can
Plug
we-
yourself.
Yeah, and where can we find the book?
All right. So for Guy Talk, we have a Instagram page. It's at GUYTALK.INC, guytalk.inc. If you got any question, comments, anything, just shoot us a DM. We would love to communicate with everyone. We'd love to reach out and talk to people. At the same time, for the book, check out apsow.ca. That is apso.ca.
Yes, sir.
And more to come.
Yes,
Stay
yes.
tuned, guys.
Thank you so much. This was presented by APSO. Awesome people.
Shaping our world.
Remember, you are awesome.
And you can make the world a better place.